Immediately following the September 11th attacks on the United States, government agents began to track down and seize terror suspects in countries around the world. Some of these individuals were held in overseas prisons. Others were transferred to the Guantanamo Bay Detention Facility, where hundreds of detainees have since been held. Thousands of others have been held in prisons in Iraq, Afghanistan, and in secret black sites, where access to counsel, notification of the reasons for their detention, or judicial or administrative review of their status has been denied. Many of these detention sites, including Guantanamo Bay and CIA black sites, were selected because they were believed by the U.S. government to be beyond the reach of the law, including legal obligations owed under United States domestic law, the laws of war, Geneva Conventions, and the Convention Against Torture. During their detention at these various sites, detainees have been subjected to what the U.S. government has euphemistically called harsh interrogation tactics, but which, in reality, amount to torture and cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment. The forms of abuse used against detainees are summarized in excerpts of a 2007 report by the International Committee of the Red Cross, the only independent organization to have been given access to Guantanamo Bay. Chapters of the report are organized according to the methods of abuse inflicted on detainees. Those abuses include suffocation by water or waterboarding, prolonged stress standing, beating by use of a collar, confinement in a box, prolonged nudity, sleep deprivation, subjection to noise and cold water, and denial of solid food. These forms of abuse were inflicted on detainees in an attempt to break them down without leaving a mark. As the Red Cross concluded, when used on their own, but particularly when used in combination, these tactics constitute torture and cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. The Red Cross report is only one of a long list of extensively researched reports documenting human rights abuses committed by the U.S. government. Other entities, including organizations, foreign legislatures, United Nations bodies, U.S. military investigators, and this commission, have acknowledged the extensive, unlawful, and systematic nature of these abuses that have been inflicted on detainees by or at the behest of the United States government. Former top government officials have recently admitted their own knowledge of and involvement in detainee abuse. Last December, former Vice President Cheney admitted that he approved the use of waterboarding on 3 detainees. More recently, former President Bush admitted that he was aware of and authorized interrogation tactics, including waterboarding, on Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
The enhanced interrogation techniques, as some call them, torture as others call them, are being argued over to this hour. Some are saying you never get any good information by rough stuff, and others have said more than once that if we hadn't used these techniques, we wouldn't have had vital information, and attacks could have been or would have been carried out on this country. Your view of that?
My view is that the techniques were necessary and are necessary to be used on a rare occasion to get information necessary to protect the American people. One such person who gave us information is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. He was the mastermind of the September the 11th, 2001 attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people on our soil. And I'm in the Oval Office, and I am told that we have captured Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and the professionals believe he has the information necessary to secure the country. So I asked, what tools are available for us to find information from him? And they gave me a list of tools, and I said, are these tools deemed to be legal? And so we got legal opinions before any decision was made. And I think when people study the history of this particular episode, we'll find out we gained good information from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in order to protect our country.
Well, how good and how important, and what's the kind of...
We believe that the information we gained helped save lives on American soil.
Can you be more specific than that?
Well, I have said in speeches, and as a matter of fact, when this program was leaked to the press, I actually gave a speech that setting the American people, yes, we're doing this. And but I also emphasize we were doing it within the law. Look, I understand why people can get carried away on this issue, but generally they don't know the facts.
In spite of this overwhelming evidence, only a handful of low-level soldiers have been held accountable. The United States government has yet to hold high-level officials accountable for devising, directing, or authorizing these abuses. Moreover, the current administration has indicated its disinclination to hold human rights abusers accountable. Recent statements made by the Justice Department and by advisors to then-President-elect Obama suggest that these crimes will go uninvestigated and the architects and perpetrators of these serious human rights abuses will go unpunished. This is unacceptable. The United States has a legal duty under international and domestic law to effectively investigate, prosecute, and punish perpetrators of human rights crimes. The United States government also has an obligation to protect victims' rights to truth, justice, and reparation for abuses they have suffered. The obligation to investigate, prosecute, and punish serves an important purpose. The enforcement of these duties promotes respect for the rule of law, provides justice and healing to victims, and deters the commission of future human rights abuses. Failure to enforce these obligations cultivates impunity and disregard for the law, denies victims their right to justice, condones human rights violations, creates conditions that increase the likelihood of torture being committed, and reduces the United States government's credibility to seek compliance with human rights norms from other states. The Attorney General of the United States has the power to appoint special counsel to investigate these crimes and prosecute those found responsible. The Attorney General should exercise that authority, and the United States government should do everything in its power to support the Attorney General. The United States government also has an obligation to protect victims' rights, which include the right to truth, justice, and reparation. These rights might be satisfied through a variety of mechanisms, depending on the circumstance of each case. But whichever method is chosen, the United States must, in any event, carry out an effective investigation, reveal the facts surrounding the abuse, reveal the government's role in those abuses, identify those responsible, afford victims prompt recourse to a competent tribunal to address their legal claims, and provide sufficient, prompt, proportionate, and effective reparation to victims. Like the duty to investigate, punish, and prosecute, the obligation to protect victims' rights promotes respect for the rule of law and provides healing to victims of abuse. Failure to protect these rights would condone past abuses and contribute to a culture of impunity. It also constitutes a violation of the United States government's legal obligations under international law. As will be explained by Mr. Ratner, obstacles to accountability have already been erected by the United States government. It will have to do much more to bring itself into compliance with its legal obligations. Thank you.
You've been wanting to say this
That's
for
right.
a long time.
Lock them up. Lock them up. Lock the bastards up and throw the key away. Far away! A few years down and get Mo, then life in Abu Ghraib. Make sure their sorry asses never see the light of day. Think you got it? 2, 3, 4. Lock them up. Lock them up. Lock them up. Lock them up. Lock the bastards up and throw the key away. Far